Get out of my lobby. This place isn't for your kind. The words didn't slip. They were thrown, like a slap, but colder. Delivered not in whispers, but policy. Loud enough for the marble floor to carry it across the room. Clear enough that no one could pretend they didn't hear. Gregory Vance didn't lower his voice. Didn't flinch. Didn't care that the woman in front of him stood still, composed, silent. He looked at her and saw only what he chose to see. A black woman. Alone. In sneakers and a black tee. To him, that meant unworthy. To her, that meant nothing. The lobby of the Horizon Grand shimmered under soft lighting, with chrome accents and chilled lemon water dispensers. It was 3:17 p.m. on a Thursday in Seattle. Behind the check-in desk, Gregory, 48, balding but with the posture of someone who believed himself irreplaceable, stood with arms crossed like a border guard. Lauren Hayes, 30, stood beside him, ponytail tight, smile tighter. Kevin Patel, 27, lingered just behind, folding his arms like he'd practiced the pose. She didn't say a word. Not yet. Because Aisha Carter had heard this before. Years ago. In Atlanta. In Charlotte. She'd heard it wearing heels. She'd heard it wearing a blazer. And today, she was hearing it wearing sneakers, inside a hotel she owned. But Gregory didn't know that. Not yet. All he saw was an intruder on his marble. All he wanted was for her to vanish. The tension didn't build slowly. It dropped, like glass, the moment he said it. Every head in the lobby lifted. A couple froze mid-conversation. One woman looked over her phone, eyes narrowing. Another man whispered, "Did he just say that?" Still, Aisha said nothing. Because she knew better than to answer a man playing God with a front desk. She simply looked him in the eye. And waited. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Aisha. Lauren leaned forward now, voice syrupy with condescension. Do you even have a reservation? Because this is a premium tier hotel. Aisha's hand moved slowly. Calmly. She pulled out a black card. The kind you don't get with points. And an ID, embossed, clean, government issued. She slid them across the counter without a word. Gregory picked them up like they might bite. He turned the card over, sneered. This looks suspicious. Security. Lauren called into her headset, already pressing the button. Possible fraud case. Unauthorized guest trying to access penthouse suite. Penthouse. Not a regular room. Not deluxe. Penthouse. Gregory blinked. Kevin's eyebrows twitched. But none of them backed down. In the far corner of the lobby, someone started recording. A soft red light blinked. And with it, so did the first ripple of judgment. Not from Aisha. From the crowd, now watching a fire start from nothing but arrogance and assumption. And this fire? It had 9 minutes left to burn. Gregory didn't check the system. Didn't scan the card. Didn't type a single key. He just looked up and said it like a verdict. This can't be real. We've had people try this before. Kevin, lock it up. Kevin Patel stepped forward like he'd been waiting for his moment. Smirking, he took the black credit card between two fingers, turned, and walked to the brushed steel cabinet behind the desk. He made a show of it. Opened the safe slowly. Held the card in the air like a prop. Then dropped it in and shut the door with a theatrical click. Company property now, he said. Until we verify with the bank. No one moved. Aisha didn't flinch. Didn't reach. Didn't raise her voice. She simply inhaled once, slow, and then spoke for the first time since entering the room. That was your last mistake. The words weren't loud, but they cut through the lobby like steel cable. To the side, a young woman with a camera phone whispered to her friend, "They just took her card." Her voice trembled. Her eyes didn't. Jacob, a live streamer already recording from a velvet couch, turned his camera to face the front desk. Horizon Grand. Seattle. They're stealing from a black woman in real time. No verification. No policy. Just vibes and violence. Lauren crossed her arms, smug. Gregory leaned closer, voice louder now. This hotel has standards. People like you don't belong in rooms like that. We've seen this scam. That phrase, people like you, echoed. Elena Ruiz, 25, stood silently at the concierge desk. Her fingers gripped the wood. Her jaw tightened. She'd heard this tone before. Had stayed silent before. But not this time. Aisha turned slightly. Pulled her phone from her pocket. One tap. On the other end, 3 blocks away, Nia Thompson, executive assistant, sharp-suited, and always ready, picked up instantly. "It's happening," Aisha said calmly. "Begin logging. Flag protocol sequence." "Already on it," Nia answered. "Timestamps live. Every second's being recorded." Gregory didn't notice, or didn't care. He was too busy putting on a show for the other guests, who were now clearly watching. "Seen it all before," he said, loud enough for the espresso machine to hear. "Flashy cards. Fake names. Disappear when we check with Amex." He turned to Kevin and nodded. "She's done here." Lauren stepped from behind the counter, smoothed her blazer, and reached for Aisha's arm. "You need to leave now." The moment contact was made, gasps. One from the woman filming, another from an older man sitting near the fireplace. Aisha didn't step back, didn't resist. She simply said, cold and clear, "Remove your hand." Lauren froze. Elena moved. Fast. Out from behind her desk, she stepped between the two women. "You can't touch her," Elena said, voice shaking but firm. "She has a valid reservation. I saw her name this morning. Penthouse suite. A. Carter." "Confirmed." Gregory spun on her. "You want to lose your job too?" Elena didn't blink. "I'd rather lose my job than lie for you." Jacob's stream caught every word. The comment count jumped. So did the fury. Aisha spoke again, low, deliberate. "Nia, escalate. Begin internal audit. Log every employee action and every guest witness." "Confirmed," Nia said. "Backup verification in progress. Safe entry timestamped. Compliance review initiated." Gregory turned red. Lauren backed away. Kevin's smirk cracked. And still, Aisha hadn't moved from her spot. Still calm. Still silent. Still sovereign. But the air had shifted. The hotel's marble lobby wasn't neutral anymore. It was charged. It was watching. And the clock was ticking. Kevin Patel, who had been leaning back smugly against the safe, now straightened. He looked at Elena, then at Aisha, and scoffed. "You think flashing a black card gets you into the penthouse? Go back to wherever you came from." His voice wasn't loud, but it hit the room like a dropped tray, sharp, clangy, unmistakable. A ripple ran through the lobby. Guests stirred. One woman gasped audibly. A man in a business suit raised his phone, this time not pretending to hide it. Lauren, emboldened by Gregory's silence, stepped forward again. "You've been warned. It's time for you to leave, ma'am." And this time, she grabbed Aisha's arm with both hands. Firm, as if escorting a threat. The room exploded. "She just touched her. I'm filming this. Get your hands off her." Multiple voices rang out. Jacob's stream surged past 800 viewers in seconds. A woman near the check-in line stepped aside, shielding her teenage daughter instinctively. Aisha didn't move, didn't shake free. Her voice, when it came, was quieter than the shouting, but carried farther. "Nia. Phase 2. Now." "Confirmed." Nia's voice came back. "System escalation underway. Hotel access logs are frozen. Staff IDs being flagged for audit." Gregory, suddenly aware something was happening he didn't control, snapped. "You think this little game means anything? We're calling the cops." He reached for the desk phone, but Aisha spoke again. "Please do. I'll wait." She stepped forward, just one step, but the shift in energy was seismic. Gregory paused. His hand hovered over the receiver, then dropped. Lauren stepped back, face flushed. Kevin didn't speak. For the first time, silence wasn't power. It was panic. Behind the concierge desk, Elena stood firm. "You've crossed the line," she said, voice steadier now. "She's in the system. I checked myself. VIP clearance. Executive override." Gregory turned, eyes wild. That could have been faked. She could have hacked in. Sophie Lynn, the travel blogger now openly filming, spoke loud enough for the whole room. "You think someone walked in off the street and hacked your hotel system and brought 2,000 live stream viewers? That's what you're going with." The room tensed. The crowd was shifting. From curious to outraged. From watchers to witnesses. Aisha looked around. Slow, intentional. "Gregory," she said. "You call me a fraud. You held my ID like it was contaminated. You let your staff take my card and lock it in a safe. And now, in front of every guest here, you put your hands on me." Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The authority in it was quieter than rage, but heavier than guilt. "You want to call the police? Do it. Just make sure you call the right department, the one that handles federal violations of access and discrimination." Kevin swallowed hard. Lauren shifted her feet. Gregory opened his mouth, then shut it again. Elena took one more step forward. She's not just a guest. She's not a scammer. She's the reason we have a penthouse suite. Jacob's stream comments rolled like wildfire. She owns the place, doesn't she? I can't believe what I'm watching. This is black dignity in real time. Fire them. All of them. Aisha spoke again. Not to the room, to the moment. You think power looks like a suit? Like a logo? Like being loud? She turned slightly, gaze sweeping across Lauren, Kevin, Gregory. Power is being calm, and still being right. Then, to Nia, crystal clear, prepare phase 3. They just triggered the final lock. And the room, for the first time since it all began, went completely silent. The silence didn't last long. Because truth has a sound, and it doesn't stay quiet forever. From the far corner of the lobby, a woman stepped forward. Older, white hair pinned neatly, a floral scarf tucked under her coat. She held her phone high, but didn't speak into it. Instead, she turned to Lauren and asked, "Excuse me, do you know who you just touched?" Lauren froze. The woman didn't wait for an answer. She turned to Aisha and said, voice clear, "If you want me to give a witness statement, I will." Gregory scoffed. "Ma'am, this doesn't concern—" "Oh, it does," she snapped. "Because I've stayed at this hotel for years, and I've never seen anything this ugly happen in daylight." Then, another voice. From behind the check-in line, a man in a navy blue suit, mid-50s, clipboard in hand, clearly corporate, stepped forward, eyes narrowed. "I was here for a site audit," he said. "Now I'm auditing this." Kevin turned pale. Lauren stammered. Gregory tried to regain control. "This guest is in the system," Elena cut in again. "Under A. Carter. Penthouse suite. Executive level. Override clearance active since 6 a.m. And then it hit. The pause. The realization. The name. Gregory turned slowly, almost reluctant, like his own denial had weight. "Carter," he said. Aisha stepped forward, just one step. And the lobby felt like a courtroom now. "That name means something to you." Gregory didn't answer. Lauren's eyes darted to the side. Kevin, for once, said nothing. "You called me a fraud," Aisha continued. "But your system logged me in before you even started your shift." Jacob's stream jumped past 3,000 viewers. Sophie whispered, "Is this the twist?" The answer, no, not yet. The twist wasn't the name. It was what came next. Aisha pulled out her phone again, calmly, like checking email. "Nia, how many complaints have been logged against this location in the last 6 months?" 17, ma'am. 9 involved profiling of guests. 5 explicitly noted discrimination by front desk staff. 3 named Gregory Vance directly. And were they escalated? "No, ma'am. All marked unverified. All closed by Lauren Hayes." Aisha turned toward her. "You silenced 9 voices. And now, you're watching yours fall apart." Lauren stepped back. Gregory opened his mouth. "None of that proves anything." Aisha looked around, to the guests now forming a loose half-circle. Phones raised. Eyes locked. "Witnesses. I don't need proof. I am the proof." Another beat. Then a sound. Not from Aisha. Not from Gregory. From the system. A dull beep. The kind a badge scanner makes when it denies access. Gregory looked down. His ID, still clipped to his belt, blinked red. So did Lauren's. So did Kevin's. Elena didn't move. Because hers didn't flash at all. Phase 3 complete, Nia said in Aisha's earpiece. All staff IDs deactivated. Access frozen. Compliance alert sent to legal. Gregory stared at his badge, blinking. You can't do that." "I just did." The crowd didn't cheer. Not yet. They just stood there, stunned. Because in less than 10 minutes, a woman they tried to erase had erased them. And she hadn't raised her voice once. Gregory's voice broke the silence, brittle, desperate. "This isn't real. She's bluffing. You're all being played." But no one believed him now. Not after the badges turned red. Not after the quiet woman in sneakers spoke with more command than any manager ever had behind that desk. Sophie, still filming, whispered, "Say it. Please just say it." And Aisha did. She stepped fully into the center of the marble floor, her voice steady, low. And this time, final. "I'm not the guest. I'm the owner." Gasps scattered like raindrops. One man dropped his coffee. Another woman put her hand to her chest. Elena exhaled, like she'd been holding that truth in her lungs for hours. "I knew it," she whispered. Jacob's livestream chat went feral. The drop, black excellence in motion. She just Thanos snapped the whole front desk team. We need her ASO of Earth. Gregory stood frozen behind the desk, as if time had left him behind. Aisha turned to him directly now. You judged me by how I walked in, not by what I built. You assumed my quiet meant weakness. But silence isn't submission. It's strategy. Lauren's hand trembled near her earpiece. Kevin looked like he wanted to vanish into the wall. Then Aisha said it. Your behavior didn't offend me because you didn't know who I was. It offended me because this is how you treat people when you think they're no one. The room inhaled sharply. She wasn't speaking just to Gregory anymore. She was speaking to the room, and every hotel, bank, airline, and boardroom that ever saw her as less. I built this hotel group from scratch. From one property to 41. You're standing in Horizon Grand, a flagship under my brand. And today, you told the CEO to leave her own lobby. Someone near the window clapped, just once. Then another, and another. And suddenly, applause wasn't polite. It was powerful. The kind of applause that doesn't say bravo. It says, finally. Gregory's face drained of color. No, this is some trick. She's just a face, a front. Elena stepped forward now, voice firm. Her name is on every internal document. She is the corporate signature. She's the top-level override. I know because I trained under her onboarding program. She wrote it. Lauren looked to Gregory. Kevin backed up, his badge still blinking red. Then Aisha did one last thing. She lifted her phone and pressed speaker. Nia, patch me through. A moment of silence. Then a woman's voice filled the lobby. Professional. Sharp. Unapologetic. This is Carla Bennett, Corporate Legal Officer for Horizon Holdings. Effective immediately, Gregory Vance, Lauren Hayes, and Kevin Patel are terminated. Their access has been revoked. All footage and audio from this lobby is being archived for compliance and legal audit. You will be contacted. No yelling. No sirens. Just consequence. Aisha ended the call and looked around one final time. I didn't come here for war. I came for rest. In a room I paid for. In a company I built. She turned to Gregory. And you tried to throw me out of it. Then she stepped away from the desk, past the frozen staff, past the cameras, and toward the elevator. The crowd parted like water. Because royalty doesn't shout. It moves. And when it moves, the room shifts. The echo of Carla Bennett's voice hadn't even faded when the lobby began to shift. Not physically, but in energy, posture, intent. What was once smug confidence behind the counter was now collapse. Gregory took a step back from the desk like it might explode. Lauren's mouth opened, then shut. Kevin pressed the badge at his waist again, desperate, but the red light didn't care. It blinked like a countdown, and it was nearly 0. Guests didn't whisper anymore. They stared. One woman in a pantsuit turned to her colleague and said under her breath, "That's her. Aisha Carter. I read about her. Forbes cover. Built her empire from scratch." A man near the water dispenser nodded slowly. She turned a boutique hotel chain into a global brand. And they treated her like she snuck in. The applause hadn't faded entirely. It came in waves now. Small bursts. Not celebration. Recognition. Elena stood behind Aisha now. Not for protection, but solidarity. I filed 3 internal reports last quarter, she said softly. 2 of them involved Gregory. All were closed without follow-up. All disappeared. Aisha didn't respond. Didn't need to. Her presence alone was response enough. Lauren suddenly turned. Defensive now, voice higher. We were following protocol. Anyone could have printed that card. The crowd wasn't buying it. A father near the elevator shook his head. You didn't even check the system. You judged and reacted. That wasn't protocol. That was personal. Kevin finally spoke, barely a whisper. Greg, what do we do? Gregory didn't answer. He couldn't. Because every exit strategy had vanished with that badge blink. A young black woman near the lobby fireplace looked up from her phone and said clearly, "She's the reason we even have this place to stay in." And they tried to erase her. Aisha finally turned, not to speak, but to walk. Calm, precise, toward the elevator. That's when a man in a pressed suit, hotel guest, clearly corporate, stepped forward. "Miss Carter, if I may. What you just did, that wasn't just justice. That was architecture. You built something stronger than walls." She met his eyes, nodded once, then turned back to the elevator. Gregory's voice cracked behind her, finally finding breath. "Wait. Please. Can we talk? Aisha didn't turn around. You had your chance to talk. You used it to call security. Lauren raised her voice now, panicked. We didn't know who you were. And that's when Aisha stopped walking. She turned slowly. Eyes sharp, still steady. That's the problem. You thought that mattered. The entire lobby froze again. Because in that line, every assumption was shattered. Every excuse fell flat. And every person in the room, guest, staff, witness, knew this wasn't just about a hotel. It was about how power looks. And how often we fail to see it. Gregory's hand trembled as he reached across the desk, blindly searching for stability. But there was nothing there. The desk, once his fortress, was now just furniture. His badge still blinked red. No access. No override. No control. Aisha stood like stone. No anger. No smugness. Just stillness. She didn't move toward him. Didn't taunt. She let the moment marinate. Let him see what silence looks like when it wins. Lauren broke next. We were just following orders, she stammered. You looked unverified. Aisha's eyes narrowed, just slightly. You held my ID. My card. My reservation. Still, you chose suspicion. Tell me, what was unverified? My face. My clothes. My skin. Lauren looked down. It's not like that. It's always like that, Aisha replied. Until someone like me says it isn't anymore. Kevin tried again. Can't we fix this? We didn't know who you were. And that, Aisha said, is why this needs to end. She turned to her phone and tapped twice. Carla, she said calmly. The speaker opened. Carla Bennett's voice returned, firmer now, final. Ms. Carter, legal has confirmed all footage, transcripts, and badge logs from the last 15 minutes. Corporate is standing by. Are you ready to proceed? Aisha looked around once more. Not for effect. For closure. The guests, witnesses now nodded. Quiet support. Silent apology. Proceed, she said. Confirming, Carla replied. As of now, Gregory Vance, Lauren Hayes, and Kevin Patel are permanently banned from all Horizon properties, internal systems, and partnerships. Termination complete. Final pay will be held pending compliance review. Gregory staggered backward like he'd been struck. Lauren's knees buckled slightly. Kevin's mouth fell open, but no sound came out. One guest whispered, live. Real time. That's power. Aisha wasn't done. Also, she added, flag this location for a full audit. Pull every incident involving guest profiling in the last 18 months. Carla didn't miss a beat. In progress. Elena Ruiz is being logged as supporting witness. Her employment status is elevated to temporary acting manager. Elena blinked. Wait, what? Aisha finally smiled, just a flicker. This place needs someone who speaks before it's safe. Sophie Lynn whispered into her camera. She just promoted the only one who stood up. God, this woman doesn't miss. Jacob's chat exploded. Elena for president. This is how you clean house. She didn't scream. She executed. Gregory found his voice, barely. You don't have to do this. Aisha tilted her head. You mean the part where I hold people accountable? Yes, I do. Then she stepped forward, slowly, until she was face to face with the man who once told her to leave. I don't need to raise my voice, she said. I raised this building. And today, I raised the standard. Gregory didn't respond. Couldn't. Because how do you argue with a woman who just ended your career by standing still? Aisha turned, nodded once to Elena, then walked toward the elevator, her reflection trailing in the polished floor like a crown. And this time, no one blocked her path. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Aisha stepped in without hesitation. She didn't turn, didn't wave, but the lobby behind her, it moved. Not physically, but deeply. Sophie lowered her phone slowly, her eyes glassy. Jacob ended his stream with a whisper. We just watched a masterclass in dignity. Gregory didn't speak. He was still frozen behind the desk, hands limp, badge blinking red like a dying signal. Lauren leaned against the wall, as if trying to disappear into the wallpaper. Kevin sat on the edge of the safe, the same one that still held Aisha's card, as if it might give him instructions. But silence was the only thing answering now. Elena stood rooted near the concierge podium, stunned. Acting manager, she repeated to herself. That can't be real. A voice behind her replied. She made it real. It was the elderly woman with the floral scarf. She smiled, the kind of smile that comes after a long silence is finally broken. Aisha stood in the elevator, finger poised on the top floor button. She looked out once more, this time to the crowd. No anger. No victory dance. Just presence. Calm. Complete. She said one last thing. Quiet. But it rang like a bell. I didn't come here to make a scene. But you made one the second you assumed I didn't belong. She pressed the button. As the doors began to close, Sophie asked the question the room hadn't dared. Miss Carter, why didn't you film it? Aisha's answer came just before the doors sealed shut. Because I didn't need to. I am the footage. Click. Elevator gone. Scene over. But the impact? It stayed. Like heat after lightning. Like music after silence. Jacob's phone buzzed with comment after comment. She's a legend. Don't touch a black woman's silence. It's loaded. I'll never look at hotel lobbies the same again. Elena walked toward the front desk, slowly, like entering a place that used to feel unsafe, but now somehow belonged to her too. Behind her, a child whispered to their mother. Is she the boss now? The mother smiled. She's always been. And far above them, in the penthouse suite that was once questioned, a black card slid into a reader. Green light. Door unlocked. Aisha stepped inside, alone. No camera crew. No entourage. Just her. Her legacy. And a view she'd earned. She didn't pour champagne. Didn't post a selfie. She stood at the window, watching the city below. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Carla. All terminations processed. Legal team standing by for press inquiry. Aisha replied with just 2 words. Let them watch. Because justice doesn't always need a microphone. Sometimes, it walks in quietly. Sits where it's told not to. And redefines the room. The lobby stayed frozen long after the elevator doors closed. It didn't feel like a hotel anymore. It felt like the aftermath of something ancient, something tectonic. Not just a policy violation. A reckoning. Lauren slowly unclipped her name badge and dropped it on the desk. The plastic hit like a confession. Kevin wiped his palms on his slacks, his eyes darting, not from guilt, but from exposure. He whispered, we were just doing our jobs, but even he didn't believe it anymore. Gregory sank into the rolling chair behind the desk, the one that once made him feel like a gatekeeper. Now it just spun. Aisha's voice replayed in his head, again and again. You thought my silence meant weakness. But it hadn't. It had meant control. And now? It meant judgment. Elena stood near the podium, not speaking, still digesting what had just happened and what it meant for her tomorrow. Was she ready to lead? Did it matter? The woman who owned the building thought so. And that alone changed everything. A couple who had just checked in an hour ago walked past, pulling their luggage. The man looked at Lauren, then Kevin, then at the blank screen behind the desk. He didn't ask for help. He just shook his head. A small group of guests gathered near the coffee bar. Their whispers were different now. Not gossip. Reflection. One said, she didn't humiliate them. She revealed them. Another replied, she didn't need to prove she belonged. She made it clear they never did. Someone from the back chimed in. That's not how power usually works. Power screams. She didn't. And from across the room, an older man with a newspaper folded under his arm finally spoke. It wasn't about who she was. It was about who we weren't. Silence followed. Not tension. Not fear. Something else. Humility. The concierge phone rang once, then stopped. No one picked it up. Sophie sat quietly in a corner chair, watching the footage she'd just recorded. She didn't post it. Not yet. She just stared at the screen, as if trying to figure out what part of her had been changed by witnessing it. Jacob approached her. Are you uploading it? She shook her head slowly. Maybe. But maybe the story already told itself. And it had. Because this wasn't a clip. This wasn't a TikTok moment. It was an imprint. A lesson etched into the marble, the wood, the name tags that no longer mattered. In the elevator shaft above, Aisha had disappeared into her suite. But down here, something remained. The guests. The staff. The memory. And not just of a woman being underestimated, but of a woman who never had to raise her voice to remind them. She owned everything they tried to keep her from. It started with a single clip. 15 seconds. Posted by Jacob under the caption. They tried to kick a black woman out of her own hotel. She let them finish, then fired them all. Then Sophie posted hers. A 48-second edit with the line that shook the world. I don't need to raise my voice. I raised this building. By midnight, #Horizon Grand was trending in 6 countries. By dawn, Aisha Carter's name was on the front page of every major media outlet. But she wasn't talking. No tweets. No interviews. No press statement. Just silence. The kind that echoes. And in that vacuum, the people spoke. She walked in like a guest, stood like an owner, left like a legend. I've never seen a takedown this elegant. This wasn't a viral moment. This was a viral standard. Every black woman who's ever been doubted just stood up a little taller. The clips weren't edited. They didn't need to be. The footage was the message. No dramatics. No spin. Just raw, living proof of what happens when power is patient. By morning, every platform was on fire. YouTube montages. Instagram reels with subtitles. Twitter threads dissecting every word, every pause, every silence. One user wrote, "She weaponized dignity." And it worked. Another added, "This wasn't just about race. It was about erasure," and she reversed it in 9 minutes. News anchors used phrases like, boardroom justice, corporate clapback, the quietest mic drop of the decade. But even through all the noise, one truth floated above the frenzy. She didn't go viral. The truth did. A podcast host cried on air. "I worked front desk for 6 years. Got treated like her more times than I can count. But I never saw someone take the whole damn structure and flip it, without shouting, without lifting a finger." At the Horizon Grand, guests began checking out early. Not because of the scandal, but out of shame. "I was in that lobby. I didn't say anything," one man posted. "Next time I will." The comment went viral. Not for the confession, but for the promise. People didn't just share the story. They sat with it. Carried it. In classrooms. In staff meetings. In boardrooms. One hotel in Atlanta issued a memo within 12 hours of the incident. Review all guest intake procedures. Reassess frontline bias protocols. This will not be us. By lunch, 3 other chains followed suit. And yet, Aisha stayed silent. No follow-up. No branded statement. No merch. No podcast tour. Just one update from Carla Bennett, her legal officer. "Our CEO has no comment at this time." Her presence spoke clearly enough. That line alone got 140,000 likes. Because sometimes, it's not what you say. It's what you survived without ever having to explain. It started quietly. Not in the headlines. Not in the shares. In living rooms. In lunch breaks. In whispered, "Did you see her?" exchange between women who had once swallowed their pride to keep their paycheck. At a high school in Detroit, a black student named Zuri stood up during a debate on leadership. She didn't cite a textbook. She quoted Aisha Carter. "Power isn't how loud you get. It's how many people go quiet when you stand." The room fell silent. Then someone clapped. Then another. By the next day, her teacher had changed the week's lesson plan. Leadership styles, quiet strength and strategic dignity. In a break room in Houston, a single mother watched the clip again during her 15-minute lunch. The way Aisha stood still. The way she didn't flinch. The way she didn't ask for respect. She embodied it. She sent it to her daughter with a note. "One day, when someone tells you you don't belong, just remember this woman didn't answer with a scream. She answered with a legacy." In South Africa, a university broadcasted the clip in their Power and Prejudice seminar. Students watched in awe, not because it was dramatic, but because it was possible. One student said, "This didn't just challenge stereotypes. It shattered what we thought strength had to look like." In boardrooms, people printed out Aisha's line and taped it on their walls. "I didn't need to raise my voice. I raised this building." At a women's shelter in Chicago, survivors sat together and watched the full video. Some cried. Some clapped. All of them saw something they hadn't seen in a while. Themselves unbent. One woman whispered. She stood for more than justice. She stood so we could remember what standing even feels like. Aisha hadn't posted once. Hadn't claimed a thing. But people did it for her. Not as fans. As witnesses. Because what she did wasn't just about her. It was about them. Them. The women who were told, "You're not qualified." Them. The students who were told, "You're too loud, too black, too much." Them. The quiet ones in the back of the room who had more wisdom than the whole table up front. A high-profile CEO tweeted, "My board once asked me to tone it down. Today, I'm rethinking what tone even means." Attached was Aisha's silent elevator clip. In a hair salon in the Bronx, women replayed the footage between appointments. Each time, they nodded in a different place. At the pause. At the stare. At the way she said, "Remove your hand." One stylist said, "She didn't walk alone. She walked for all of us." And now, I walk different too. This wasn't a viral trend. This was a template, a redefinition, not of power, but of presence, of what it looks like when a black woman says, enough, not with fire, but with form. And every person who saw her walk through that lobby felt something shift inside them, too. Because she didn't demand space. She revealed it had always been hers. 3 days after the footage went live, the hotel lobby was redesigned. Same marble floors. Same velvet chairs. But something had changed. Not the structure, the spirit. Gone was the weight of silence built by years of overlooked insults and subtle exclusions. In its place, a new gravity. One that pulled everyone a little straighter. A little more aware. A small plaque was mounted near the elevator. In honor of those who walk with dignity when denied it. It didn't say her name. It didn't have to. Because now everyone knew. In cities across the country, people asked, where were you when Aisha Carter redefined the lobby? And some said, I was watching. I was learning. I was finally seen. But the truth? This story was never about Aisha alone. It was about what happens when someone refuses to shrink, refuses to bend, refuses to believe that looking comfortable is more important than being respected. She didn't break the system. She exposed it by staying calm while it broke itself. And when it did, she didn't gloat. She elevated. The people who touched her arms without consent, gone. The people who filmed but said nothing, changed. The people who looked at her and saw less now look at themselves and wonder what else they've misjudged. And what about the ones who stood by, who watched it happen and only spoke up when the tide turned? They learned something too. That silence is a choice. But it doesn't have to be your last one. Because the next time someone like Aisha walks in, wearing sneakers, wearing peace, wearing power in her posture, not on a name tag, the question won't be who she is. The question will be, who are you? Are you Gregory? Are you Lauren? Are you Kevin? Or are you Elena? Will you step forward when it's unsafe? Or stay silent until it's popular? Aisha didn't film her moment. She became it. And in doing so, she left us with a final gift. Not applause, not revenge, but reflection. A quiet question that won't stop echoing. The next time it happens, what will you do? Fade out. No music. Just the sound of truth, lingering.